This is One Sentence News, a daily podcast featuring 3 news stories with a sentence-long summary and 1 sentence of context apiece. I'm Colin Wright. It's Thursday, January 27th, 2022. Let's talk about the news. From the New York Times, Japanese company joins march back to the moon in 2022. A Japanese company called iSpace has announced plans to launch a privately funded and built moonlander by the end of 2022, which, if successful, would mark both the first intact landing of a spacecraft on the moon by a Japanese entity and, depending on when it lands, potentially the first private spacecraft to land on the moon as well. The planned lander, called the M1, is about the size of a small hot tub and would have 2 rovers as passengers, one built by the Japanese Space Agency and one built by the United Arab Emirates space program. The US and Russia are also planning near-future non-crewed moon landings, as are several other companies, including 2 US companies with similar business ambitions to those held by iSpace, to essentially build the technology that other companies and governments will rely on for what they perceive to be a coming second race to the moon. From Reuters, liberal Supreme Court Justice Breyer to retire, letting Biden pick successor. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer has announced plans to retire at the end of the court's current term, which runs through June. This retirement at this moment is likely to allow President Biden to replace Justice Breyer with someone of his choosing, as there's a good chance the balance of the Senate will pivot away from its current 50-50 split, a tie that can be broken by the vice president after this year's November elections, at which point it's anything but certain Biden would be able to get another justice into office, as the Republican Senate has denied Democratic presidents the ability to do so in the past. And from the Wall Street Journal, chip shortage leaves U.S. companies dangerously low on semiconductors. A survey conducted by the U.S. Commerce Department has found that many U.S. makers of things remain seriously low on semiconductors. They typically maintain a 40-day inventory of such components, but they're currently down to fewer than 5 days of inventory. This is in some ways a reflection of the larger global situation when it comes to semiconductors, the microchips that are in seemingly everything these days. But it's also one of the catalysts behind a renewed push for the U.S. Innovation and Competition Act, which would include, among other things, $52 billion of investment to help increase and expand U.S.-based chip production, which in turn is one facet of a larger effort by global governments to bring the production of goods, and in some cases the production of the raw materials used to make those goods, back into territory they control, lest they find themselves lacking fundamental resources and at a disadvantage when negotiating or in a conflict with those who have them. If you're finding some value in One Sentence News, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and/or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com, and you can support this and other related projects like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts at understandery.com.